What is up, YouTube? Third Impact here. Just got finished watching the 18th episode of Kill La Kill, and I don't even know where to begin, but let's just begin with I called it. I called it weeks ago that Satsuki and Ryoko are sisters. But we learned a whole new dimension to this whole thing now. So, when they were kids, Satsuki was being raised to be a life fiber experiment as a small child. And this whole time, Ragyo's pregnant with Ryoko, just thinking how she's going to take even greater advantage of this kid in the life fibers. And the experiment fails on Ryoko, and she dies in this life fiber synchronization test. And it turns out, well, when we see this, we don't know that this is Ryoko, but then at the end of the episode, I don't even know how I'm going to do this episode justice, because even in just talking about the actual events that transpired at the end there, just the way that they executed that with the being stabbed and it doing that thing that it does when an episode's over, but then it just kept going and she ripped her heart out. So that was insane. Ryoko's heart has life fibers all inside of it. She has such an affinity with life fibers and all of this stuff because she died in a life fiber experiment as a small child, and that she was just tossed away. And Ishin must have, when he broke away from the group, recovered her and then raised her at some point. But that's still pretty messed up. So like, that's crazy. A lot of that stuff is still a little bit confusing to me, and I'm still trying to take all that in. I just finished watching it for the first time, so so not only did we get an amazing ending where we thought it was over, but then it just kept on going, we also got the opening cut, like how it was in episode 15, which was awesome because even better than last time. It started up, it cut to something we had never seen before, which was Homeru fighting. I mean, she wasn't that tough. She just fights with her clothing and sleeves, but like, that was crazy. So Sasuke just continues to fuck shit up. And one of my friends pointed out to me, if Sasuke knew that this was going to be happening, why did she give all of her students their the suits that transformed them into the cocoons and brought on this whole thing? He thought that was a plot hole. He thought that didn't make sense. But we also see these new one-star uniforms with the gold like tassels and all that. We see those being made in episode 17 as well. So it's like, well, where do those come from? Sasuke had it planned the whole time. The second she crucifies Ragyo, who stays crucified for a while, I might add. She's just sitting up there talking for a good part of the episode. That there's like Inamuda has already learned Nudist Beach's techniques, which was awesome because in episode 15 he was fighting Mikisugi and he was like, oh, wait right there, I want to collect some more data with my Regalia Mark II. He did collect data and it paid off right here, right now. It was amazing. So all the 4 stars are doing their thing. Nui shows up and starts fighting the 4 stars. It's amazing. It was hinted that, you know, she was going to be fighting them. Are we worried for her? Are we not worried for her? No big deal. These 4 stars are still nothing to her. And she has this new move where she puts up her parasol and clones of her are all over the place. And that was just absolute insanity. But it was perfect and it suited her really well. So that was really cool. And I just got to keep talking about Nui while I'm on her because, you know, she's my favorite character. But really weird episode for Nui. Like, really, really weird episode. So, right when Ryoko's about to take on Ragyo, Nui interrupts and it's like, oh my god, why is she doing this? What's going on? Does she have a death wish? Is she going to actually be able to turn the tables? It's like, what is she doing? She's crazy. And Ryoko actually is kicking her ass. We actually see Nui with like worried expressions on her face. It's like, I was like, oh shit. Like, I know a lot of people hate her, a lot of people want her dead, but I was so worried that like she was actually in serious trouble. So that was freaking me out, but I still think she's got some plans. She's still gonna do some crazy stuff, so you just wait. And we see how planned ahead Sasuke even is, to the point of having Iori and a bunch of men on top of the primordial life fiber. They tie up all of those goons that are there, and they freeze everything. They freeze all of the covers uniforms. They freeze all of the primordial life fiber. And that's another thing. I thought all of those suit jackets and stuff that were in the primordial life fibers chamber were the ones that they were making them wear during the cultural sports festival. So that was kind of a thing too that I was like, okay. But yeah, so I mean, when all this is happening, and it's even on like the big screens in the stadium, Iori like freezing the primordial life fiber. So that was amazing, and it just made Sasuke look like a fucking boss in front of Ragyo, and she continued to look like a boss as she went after Ragyo, which was just insane. But before all that happens, um, so much happens in this episode. Ragyo breaks out and uses this technique. Oh, oh my god. Okay, so you think Haomaru is gonna jump in and protect um Sasuke? Is gonna protect Ragyo from Satsuki, but when she slashes, it actually frees Ragyo, and she uses this thing, these threads that then just control all of Satsuki's army. That was just she just was such a badass, showing that she had a plan. She saved all of them, and she had this huge army ready to go. And the second she has this huge army ready to go, Ragyo just uses these threads. She kind of throws them up in a technique that was very reminiscent of when Nui revealed that she was actually dressing up as that guy who tricked Ryoko. So she uses this thing, and it wires everybody's brains with these life fibers, and it brainwashes them and practically makes all of the entire army her puppets, which is just crazy. And she even controls Ryoko and turns Ryoko into a puppet, and that was absolutely insane. I was not expecting that at all. That was so cool. And Sasuke's having to fight Ryoko, even though she's not using her Senketsu. She's still putting up a really good fight, and Ragyo's impressed. But then, not even very far into this fight at all, you think they're gonna have this big, like cross counter fist attack, and then you think that they headbutt each other. But then you see that Ryoko, punches herself, and then her piece of red hair flicks around and breaks the life fibers on her brain. Just it breaks the control. She shoves her hand into her brain and rips it out with her bare hands. It's like, not gonna let this stop me. So like, oh my god, that was crazy. I like jumped out of my seat when that happened. That was the most insane thing ever. And also her true Kamui Senketsu when she was fighting Nui. Even though Nui looked worried, and I was like really worried for that. Like, that was crazy. Ryoko was so powerful in this episode, and that was insane. And then Satsuki gloriously decapitates Ragyo after she's already crucified her. She's gone free now, and Satsuki decapitates her. But Ragyo has this whole thing where like her whole body is like life fibers, and there was like one thread that was still connected from her head to her body. So she comes back to life, reattaches her head, and then she proceeds to just like dismantle Satsuki in a just it's disgusting. Like it's disgusting on multiple levels. Like Satsuki is like such a proud character, and you're already kind of pissed from episode 16 when there was that whole bath scene with Ragyo and Satsuki. I feel like that was a real shitty thing to have happen to her character because she was so strong and so stoic for so long. And then that happened. But then last episode it's like, okay, it's fine. It's like you're gonna touch me, bad touch Ragyo, bad touch mommy. I'm gonna fucking crucify you. So that was like, yes, this is amazing. And then you get the decapitation, but then when Ragyo comes back, she's just beating her with her fists. She bad touches her again, much more just like as part of the action sequence, which was just crazy. And she gets knocked away by this huge beam attack, and then the lights shine on her. Like the choreography of those sequences of her decapitating Ragyo, of Ragyo beating on her, of that whole thing. The animation was amazing. Like it was just so creative and so well shot. And it was just that so much emphasis was like put on all the just this episode was so amazing. Oh my god, this episode was so amazing. So I think this is like the big final thing of the episode. After this, just her getting completely destroyed, she's then stripped of Junkets and was like, you know what? You were never truly wearing Junkets. You were just shoving your arms through its sleeves. You can't handle this. I'm just going to be taking this. And she strips her of it and just tosses her into the audience. It's like, oh my god, we have never seen Satsuki like this before. Like, she is in such a dire situation. It is ridiculous. And then Ragyo wears Junkets, and she just looks like she looks like such a formidable final boss sort of deal. And when she gets her head cut off, I forgot to mention, the primordial life fiber like reawakens and goes crazy, and like all of those suit jackets get teleported, and the sky goes insane. Like, all hell is breaking loose, and I just don't understand. I don't understand how this situation is going to dissolve, and we're going to get what's going on in the next episode, which is a slower, more recovery sort of episode from what we've seen, which they deserve. Like, oh my god, like, they deserve that recovery episode. They need it. And this was like, this entire episode felt like a finale, like the end of the show. They're pulling out all the stops, and I know that's what Kill la Kill does a lot, but this episode more than ever was pulling out all the stops constantly. There were stops that they didn't even need to pull out at all. They just pulled them out for the sake of pulling them out. And this is episode 18. Like, there was so many more episodes, and I feel like they made so many revelations in this episode that they could have spread out, but they have a plan, I assume. And I can't wait for next week. I can't see what the next step is. Can't wait to see how they get out of this. This is just insane. And that's it. That's it. I have nothing else to say. You guys got 2 videos in one day. Tell your friends. Tell your friends that they can sometimes get 2 videos in one day from me. And then maybe they'll subscribe. Peace.